for this week's video.
You might notice a word.
But that happens. Sometimes it just all happens where it's happening. But we're gonna be talking.
You can do the capsule wardrobe.
Yeah, so you run out of things. But we're gonna be talking about we recorded the video about being a minority in the workplace, and then we started talking about marriage, and I thought, you know what? Why not talk about this? So I don't even know what we'll title it, but we'll see where the conversation leads. But marriage, expectations of being married, and how you deal with that. Yeah.
Just preface, Sophie's the only one who's married.
Yeah, otherwise we're single ladies. So this will be interesting.
Well, the videos before that we were discussing was about like women in the workplace, minorities, inadequacies, those topics. And so when we were discussing, I was sharing how I felt that I feel totally like confident and fine imagining myself as president of the United States. Like I can see that happening. But
Dream big, girl. I can see it.
It doesn't seem far-fetched, like because I'm a woman, because I'm a minority. No, I can do that.
see it too. Yeah.
But what does like if I'm single the rest of my life, that's a problem. That's something that is not allowed. That's something that would bring me a lot of shame. That would be like. So that's where I feel more pressure in the sense of being a woman when it revolves around sexuality and marriage, I guess.
Gender roles.
Yeah, roles.
That's good. I think Indian women, I don't know for sure, but I feel like Indian women have it the worst. Because since I was 22, I'm currently 24, I have been spoken to about getting married. And there wasn't even a thought in my head, to be honest with you, at all. And if you're an Indian guy, and I don't know why I envy them, they get asked around 25, But my mom was saying again, I went downstairs last night and my parents were, basically this aunt and uncle just came back from India, and I've been pressured a lot to get married. I love you, mom and dad, but you gotta chill. And my aunt and uncle came, and they were saying, well, your uncle, we just gave him a new, the Indian version, the guy version of a salwar. Your mom has a new sari. Auntie, uncle, I just put on the spot there. He has this, so we're waiting for something. And honestly, I was so curious. I go, you guys are gonna have a fashion show? What are you planning to do? And they're like, we're waiting for your marriage. And I'm just I'm not dating anyone. I have expressed many times I have no intention of getting married right now. And there's so much pressure. And my mom kept saying these things, we had dinner with my uncle, and then she kept mentioning to me marriage. And I think my uncle kind of caught on that it was I'm hearing marriage a lot. And he's like, oh, when Nita's asleep, all she's hearing is marriage. Her mom's gonna come whispering in her ear. But it's and what's funny is I went to this conference, and this guy was talking, and he was saying it was actually about marriage. The topic was marriage, whatever. And he goes, oh, well, what are the things that girls look for in guys when they want to marry? He's like, oh wait, no, when you're dating someone, and I realized it's just I can't even imagine myself enjoying a period of dating, because if I were to tell my parents I'm dating someone, I'm pretty sure they would expect me to get married like that. And it's just so much pressure, and I don't know how to I don't know how to deal with it. Yeah.
I mean, just so that you don't feel alone, every time I visit my grandmother, she's like, so when are you getting married? You don't have a special someone? No one at all that you kind of and especially after.
Has it always been that way?
I think now, well, she's older, so the older you get, I believe you have less of a filter. It's first of all. Second, on my mother's side, I'm the only, so I'm talking about my mom's mother, I'm the only granddaughter. And then before me, I have two older male cousins, then it's my brother, and then their younger brother. So I'm the only girl, and I'm somewhere in the middle, and I'm marrying age now, right? So I'm gonna be 22 next week. And so my two older cousins just recently got married within the last year. And so especially since they've gotten married, my grandmother has been so when are you getting married? When you get married, we're gonna do this and that, and I love what they did and all this stuff. And I think part of it is that she enjoys obviously like the celebratory
Yeah.
aspect, but then it's also, I think it's the pressure of being like the only granddaughter that will have like her great grandchildren, and it's like the direct like, oh, should be able
You're
to partake in that. Exactly. Where it's different for the guys, where I think it's like, yes, like, okay, the men in the family will get married, but it's something about like when the daughter of the family gets married, it's like a different, I don't know, I feel like there's a different dynamic or maybe a different expectation.
And if I would add to that, I think the pressure I sort of feel in that sense is time of like, even on myself, like I want my grandparents and my mom to enjoy their grandchildren.
Right, yeah.
So it's like for me, marriage automatically is okay, kids, and it's like no chill with the.
Isn't that interesting? How we not to get you off, but just kind of like how we equate. And I don't know if men, it's like we have to ask, like we could ask Jerry, if men automatically think like, oh yeah, marriage and then children. But I think I identify with that. It's like, oh yeah, married and then you have kids. But you're not, yeah, exactly. But it's like, well, why do we feel that pressure to have kids like right away? Like, why can't it just be, I'm getting married and then.
As a married person.
Yeah.
Right now.
I have no desire to have kids.
I mean, you and Jerry's still really young.
Yeah.
I guess it's cultural
Having
perspective too.
kids
Yeah.
matter more to some people than others. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But because like growing up, you know how there are some people that are just like always really fond of babies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But those people, like, there's more of a desire.
Yeah.
Like you
Yeah.
basically have built up your entire life hoping for this one moment to happen, right? But I've never had that, so I can't really relate in that regard.
So you want kids, but you're not.
But I think the
Crazy
society
about
at
it.
large, even my parents' culture, whatever, there's this expectation that, you know, maybe in like 2 years or whatever you would have a kid. But right, I'm in no rush.
That's awesome.
Nobody
Do you feel like you have no pressure because you got married and you were youngish?
Not necessarily. Actually, right before I came out with the fact that I was dating somebody, my mom was pressuring me, and it basically made its way into every conversation where it's like,
Oh, wow.
you know, if she didn't like something, it's like, oh, what is that? Like, how is that going to be? Like, who's going to want you, basically? Right? Bringing out the Asian talk because it
I mean,
happens.
South Asian, they do it
Right.
too.
Because
Yeah.
it's like, well, your so-and-so future spouse is not going to like that. Or,
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
This notion that you need to get married has made its way into every single aspect of your life, in every conversation. So I was getting that, and I wasn't telling anybody that I was in a relationship, right?
Oh wow,
So I
you're
have to-
good. You have to hold on to
So I
that.
mean, I fought back because I knew in my head that like,
Someone
you
wants
know,
me.
But then it was like, okay, then I get married, and then like, okay, maybe there's silence for about like close to a year or for some less about this whole notion of like having kids.
Oh my gosh.
But then it happens.
I couldn't
And
hear
for some
that.
people, it's like almost immediate. Like depends on the parent, depending.
Yeah.
on
You're always
the
gonna
age, I
pressure.
guess.
Yeah.
Right. Eventually, it'll come up, and for me, at least, it took like almost a year. Before, for some people, it's less. And then now it's like normal conversation.
You know, it's funny.
Now
the other
it's
day
good.
we were over here and one of our friends asked Jerry, like, so when are you?
Yeah.
And I was like, I would never have like asked that.
I think it's interesting in terms of family because like once you finish. I mean, like, once you're married and you separate from the household, in terms of like this is your primary family now, you and Jeremiah. But in my head, like my family will be a really big role, even when I'm with, like I will still want. So I think kids even before marriage. So like marriage is the means to get kids.
I get that.
And it's because I want to give, like, I would love to have kids. Like, kids motivates me more than the marriage. But I mean, one comes before the other. I understand that. But just when you said that, I'm thinking, but I want to give my mom her grandkids. Even before I'm thinking about me.
Yeah.
You know?
Like how that would change the structure of your own life. You're like, I
Yeah,
want
it's
this
not
to
like,
happen.
it's not like it's like I want them to enjoy the time with their grandkids before I'm even thinking about like, oh, well, do I want kids?
Well, I get that, and that's a good thing.
Yeah.
And that's nice.
Yeah.
I mean,
They're very
it just made me
selfless.
think of
Yeah.
a different mentality.
Yeah.
That,
Well, I think for me, it's there's a majority, for me, the way I perceive the Asian culture is that, well, okay, to preface, in the Asian culture, it is completely the norm, especially amongst immigrants, to get married, then have a kid right away. Generally, within a year. Now, I've worked my entire life to basically run the opposite direction. And so now that this is the circumstance where it's like the possibility of having kids, I'm in no rush.
Yeah.
Also because I know for myself that it is definitely not time.
You would see yourself as a mom right now.
It's a lot.
You're preparing for the rest of your life.
Yeah. You're basically stepping into a whole
have to
new
stop everything.
marriage and life. So I'm not mentally or emotionally prepared to be a parent, and some people might be.
It's
That's
a lot.
fine.
Yeah.
But we have established that we are not at this current stage of our life.
You know, how do we make sure we don't marry the wrong guy? Because, like, honestly, I feel like I talk with guys, but I never talk with other guys because I felt pressure to get married.
Yes.
You
The answer is yes.
No, I know people who basically have reached their point where their parents are extremely desperate, so they feel desperate, but then they sort of need that reminder to like desperation is gonna lead you down.
So I'll say yesterday actually, I had my time and I was like really diving into the Bible and like spending time with God and like quality. I'm not like in a rush, but okay, God. And I realized I usually pray for my future husband and my future family, like my future kids. And I realized I hadn't done that in like months, and that wasn't in my mind anymore. Not anymore, like in the moment.
Right.
And I was like, wow, God. And I had been asking God to really like develop that love relationship with Him further because I didn't like I do want to get married. He knows that, like God knows.
Yeah.
But I didn't want that to be forefront. Like God already has that in His hands, and I trust that. So I really wanted to develop my relationship in loving Him, so that I can be grown as a better wife and a better person and whatever. So when I realized like it's been a while since I did that, since like I was praying for my husband, I was like, whoa, I haven't even that hasn't even come to my mind. Like you're actually doing what? And then I was like, okay, I want to pray for my husband again.
I'm wasting time.
But so that has been my response. Like bring it to God. Like okay, I know you know. Like because with me, I'm always like I haven't even had my first kiss, and I'm 25, and I'm like very like
switch up, you know.
I mean, I have a lot of guy friends, but I haven't like I don't. I'm like the opposite of desperate. I think I'll have many like things like, oh, I'm not sure. Like,
I'm so relaxed. I'm so picky.
No, I'm not relaxed.
What you don't like.
I think my standards are too high.
Me too.
So
Bro, there's no such thing. There's unrealistic and there's high. I think high is okay.
I think I have too many standards, basically, or too many things that
No, real talk though. How are you comparing your standard? Like, so for example, I think a lot of the time, like, okay, because we're Christians, so there's like the secular perspective of what you should be looking for in marriage, and then like the Christian perspective or the godly perspective, the biblical perspective. And I think obviously like we're in this world, but we're not of it, but we can't help but not take on this secular culture, right?
Yeah.
So I don't think everything is like wrong and sabotage and like how to mute your mentality, but I think if what you want is what the Lord is saying you should look for in a person, then I think that's fine. If it's not having a high standard.
Yeah, I agree. I believe that I'll find like my husband and I will unite and it'll be great. I think that I totally lost my train of thought, but it was
That
something.
your standards are too high.
No, it was something about how I totally lost my train of thought. I'll get back to me and then you can cut it or whatever. I'll let you know when it comes.
But another thing is, I actually really like this is like really random, but something I really appreciate is
You got it.
I remember. Wait. Wait. Oh, I know. So the Christian and secular thing. I think that the fear is what I hear like from my family and everything is, or from everyone, is that the guy that you date, you don't have to marry him. You know, like you don't have to. He's not someone that like the first person
You're
you go
locked
out
down.
with,
Yeah.
that's gonna be the person you spend the rest of your life with.
Yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
that's something that I struggle with of like, when am I sort of pushing the line of like dating versus like, oh, I'm actually dating you because I might want to marry you, you know?
Yeah.
Not just because I want to try it out and see like if I like you.
Yeah.
So that's the
Like
part
being
where
willing to accept, like, if it doesn't work out with the person while you're dating them, and
Yeah.
trying someone else out. So we're gonna end it here. We have a ton of things that we shared. We hope you guys enjoyed, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.